Good afternoon. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. This is the City Council meeting, Tuesday, August 18th, 2026, for the best place in Iowa to raise a family and grow a business. Appreciate having everyone here. Looks like we have a full agenda this afternoon, and we're going to start with something that's not on the agenda. At least one time a year, I donate a Mayor for a Day package for various nonprofit auctions and fundraising events. And so it's always a fun day, and Amber does a great job in setting that up. And we always have a good time with the kids who win that item. And we talk a lot about what it's like to be a mayor or a city leader, city council member, city employees, what it entails, making sure that we have a great place to live and where people want to be. We tour city facilities like City Hall and the library. Today they got to meet with a police officer and see what it was like to be in handcuffs. Hopefully that's a detractor, a deterrent. And we always get, the mayor's favorite dessert, which is ice cream. It's always a great time. So I'm going to recognize our participants this year. They got to sit up here and slam the gavel. I'm going to come right down there. And Ian come up.
Nick, use the mic. Use the mic.
Oh, okay.
They're recording.
All right, Brooke, you're first. I'm going to hand you, stand up here next to me. I'm going to hand you your certificate.
That's kids.
Oh, here you are. Okay, now you shake my hand. I take the certificate. Now look for the picture. See, this is what you have to do when you're a mayor. See. Okay, and you get a little bag of goodies here. Thank you for participating. And they also got, this is how good Amber is. They got their own name tag that says Mayor for a Day. So, okay, Keegan, your turn. Now I got the right certificate. All right, you watch how to do this. Now you look at the camera. There you go. Okay. All right. Well, I hope one of you will be a mayor someday, or even something greater like president or something like that. Okay, now to the agenda. We have our first presentation. We have the Linn County Public Health presentation. Maddie? Welcome. Thanks for your patience.
Hello, everyone. My name is Maddie Gilmore, and I'm an epidemiologist at Linn County Public Health. I'll let these two also introduce themselves.
I'm Charles Morgan. I'm a peer recovery coach for Crush.
My name is Megan Myers. I'm a nurse with Linn County Public Health.
So I serve as the capacity coordinator for our Overdose Data to Action to States grant, or OD2AS. Today, I'd like to spend a few minutes talking about what our project is, why it's important here in Linn County, some of the work that we've already accomplished, forgot to start that, and how community partnerships can help us better support individuals and families affected by substance use. So what is OD2AS? It's a grant funded by the CDC and administered in Iowa through the Iowa Department of Health and Human Services. The goal of the grant is to reduce overdose deaths by using local data to guide community action. One of the biggest strengths of this project is that it's not built around assumptions. We ask instead, what are we seeing here in Linn County? Where are the needs? Which strategies are working? And then where are the opportunities for improvement? Our work centers around 4 major areas. First, collecting and analyzing data so we understand local trends. Second, using that information to develop prevention strategies. Third, supporting people in recovery by helping connect them with services and resources. And finally, building strong partnerships across healthcare, public safety, community organizations, and local governments. No single organization can solve this issue alone, so collaboration really is at the heart of everything that we do. Looking at our local data helps explain why this work remains so important. Between 2021 and 2024, Lynn County experienced 114 overdose deaths. When we look more closely at those deaths, we found that 68% involved an opioid, while 61% involved a stimulant. Perhaps even more importantly, nearly 40% of these involved both an opioid and a stimulant at the same time. This tells us that polysubstance use, or using more than one substance at a time, is increasingly common. This means that prevention and response efforts can't focus on just one substance. We also found that deaths involving methamphetamine increased nearly 15% from the previous reporting period. These numbers represent more than just statistics. Every one of these deaths represents a family, friends, coworkers, classmates, and neighbors whose lives were affected. Understanding these trends helps us make informed decisions about where to focus our efforts and how best to support our community. Our grant team is made up of 4 positions that work together to address the issue from different angles. Our FAST coordinator leads our public health and safety team. This group brings together healthcare providers, law enforcement, emergency medical services, public health, and community organizations to coordinate prevention efforts and share information. Our academic detailer works directly with our healthcare providers. They provide evidence-based education on prescribing practices, overdose prevention, and emerging trends while building strong relationships with healthcare systems throughout the area. As the capacity coordinator, my role is a little different. I focus on building partnerships throughout the community, identifying gaps in services, educating organizations about local overdose trends, and helping strengthen the community's ability to respond. Much of my work involves connecting people and organizations that may not otherwise work together. Finally, our peer recovery coach provides one-on-one support to individuals working towards recovery. I'll talk a little bit more about that role on the next slide because it is one of the most unique aspects of our project. While each of these positions does have a different focus, we do work very closely together because addressing substance use requires a coordinated response. As I mentioned, one of the most unique aspects of our project is our peer recovery coach. What makes peer recovery different is that it's built on lived experience. Our peer recovery coach has personally navigated recovery and uses that experience to build trust and connect with people in a way that's often difficult for traditional systems alone. Recovery is rarely a straight path, and having someone who understands those challenges can make a meaningful difference. The peer recovery coach helps individuals identify their own goals, navigate available services, and stay engaged in recovery over time. That support might include helping someone access treatment, find stable housing, connect with employment resources, or simply just providing encouragement and accountability as they move forward through their recovery. It's also important to understand that peer recovery coaches do not replace healthcare providers. They aren't therapists, they don't diagnose conditions, and they don't provide clinical treatment. Instead, they complement those services by offering practical guidance and offering support. Our peer recovery coach is certified through the Connecticut Community for Addiction Recovery, or CCAR, which provides nationally recognized training and standards for ethical, effective peer support. Since this project began, we've been able to accomplish several meaningful initiatives throughout Lynn County. One visible example of this is the installation of 7 naloxone vending machines across the county. These machines provide free access to naloxone, a medication that can reverse an opioid overdose, helping increase access for anyone who may need it. We also completed a tri-ethnic community readiness assessment, which gathered input from community leaders representing multiple sectors. This helped us better understand community strengths, challenges, and opportunities for future collaboration. Another exciting accomplishment is the integration of our peer recovery coach into the overdose response efforts with the Cedar Rapids Police Department. Following an overdose response, individuals can now be connected more quickly with someone who understands recovery and can help them navigate the available resources. We've also partnered with local hospitals to conduct chart audits. The purpose of this isn't to evaluate our providers, but to identify opportunities to improve the referrals, follow-up care, and connections to recovery resources after someone experiences an overdose. Beyond those initiatives, our team regularly participates in community outreach events, educational presentations, and prevention activities throughout Lynn County to increase awareness and connect people with available resources. I'll now hand it over to Megan to just talk a little bit about our vending machines.
Like Maddie mentioned, I'm going to touch a little bit on the 7 Narcan vending machines that we have here in Lynn County, including the one located right next door at the library. So the reason behind installing these vending machines was to reduce barriers to accessing the life-saving medication Narcan. If you go to any CVS or Target, you're going to pay about $45 a box. Through these vending machines, this medication is free, with the goal of reducing overdose deaths throughout Lynn County, and it's paid for through opioid settlement dollars, not taxpayer dollars. The vending machines are located at the Cedar Rapids Comprehensive Treatment Center in Cedar Rapids, Crush Recovery Community Center in Cedar Rapids, Gary's Foods in Mount Vernon, the Hiawatha Public Library, Marion Public Library, Lynn County Community Services Building, and the Lynn County Mental Health Access Center. This will be specific to your vending machine right next door. Since they were installed in June of 2024, they've given out 356 boxes of Narcan. There's 2 doses in each box. 400 condom packs. There's 10 condoms in each pack. 455 hygiene kits with a brush, toothbrush, a bar of soap, and toothpaste. 250 tampon packs. There's 4 tampons in each pack. 200 fit packs, which are personalized sharps containers, and 15 gun locks, which we just added in this past December. We've also incorporated wound care kits. You've given out 300. There's gauze, gloves, ibuprofen, and cream to care for wounds.
So why does all of this matter? Substance use affects far more than the individual experiencing it. It impacts families, schools, healthcare systems, law enforcement, employers, emergency responders, and communities as a whole. When people receive support earlier, they're more likely to connect with services before a crisis escalates. When organizations work together instead of independently, people are less likely to fall through the cracks. Recovery support can also help reduce repeated emergency department visits, repeated emergency responses, and other costly crises that are affecting entire communities. Ultimately, investing in prevention, education, and recovery isn't just about responding to an overdose. It's about building a healthier, safer, and more resilient community for everyone. So what role can you play? One of the simplest ways to support this work is by helping share information and local resources with the people that you serve. Whether that's residents, students, families, or staff, making people aware of the available resources can make a real difference. Another way to help is by partnering with Lynn County Public Health on educational opportunities. We're always happy to provide presentations like this, participate in community events, or offer information on local trends and available resources. You can also help reduce stigma by encouraging conversations that recognize substance use disorder as a health issue, and by promoting recovery as something that is possible. When people feel comfortable asking for help, they are more likely to seek that support before the crisis occurs. Finally, we encourage you to stay connected with local prevention and recovery efforts. Whether that's attending meetings, sharing feedback, or simply just staying informed, community involvement helps us better understand the local needs and coordinate our efforts. The more that we work together, the better equipped we are to support individuals and families across Lynn County. That concludes my presentation, and we are happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you very much. I'm sure we have some questions. Steve, go ahead.
So when you first rolled out the vending machines, I thought that was an absolutely excellent idea. So I'm glad to see the numbers up there. My question is, do you ever get any direct feedback that a product that somebody got out of that vending machine actually saved their life? I mean, how much feedback do you get that has a direct link of, there's how many items are taken out, but here's the impact that it's had?
Yeah, so I've heard from at least our Cedar Rapids fire department chief that prior to the installation of these vending machines, they were administering naloxone on emergency calls once or twice a day. and now it's rare, maybe weekly. So just subjectively hearing
Okay.
that our EMS have more time to respond to critical emergencies, heart attacks, car crashes, what have you, instead of multiple calls a day for overdoses is a big sign for us that they noticed this. We have heard from people that said, hey, I pulled this out of the vending machine and I gave it and I saved someone's life, but we don't hear many of those.
Is there an idea to roll more of them out? I mean, is there a need for more, or what's your thoughts about the future for those vending machines?
Currently, the funding that we have, we're just focusing on sustaining the 7 vending machines
Okay.
that we currently have. If we got additional funding or additional opioid settlement dollars, there would be businesses interested in having a vending machine on their site. So we have a few in mind if we ever get additional opioid settlement dollars for that.
Great, thank you.
Gage?
Yeah. First of all, thanks for the presentation and all the work that you guys do. Super important in the community. Do you guys, I'm guessing you do. So I was wondering if we would be able to maybe receive in the future, like community or zip code, like specific data when it comes to like overdoses and just responses to that too.
Yeah, we have that data.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Grant?
Well, I appreciate the metrics you provided relative to the vending machines. And I think the complement of products, if you will, that are available in there, I think that's pretty well thought out from my view. If we could just back up to the slide of the 5 team members, if that's possible. There. Oh,
The picture?
That one.
that one. So is that the entire team? Or are there others that are supporting the effort behind the scenes?
So there are the main 3 for our team, which is me as the capacity coordinator, Megan as the fast coordinator and academic detailer, Charles as the peer recovery coach.
Okay.
But then we do have a project coordinator who is Heather Metter at the public health department. Several others from Crush that are helping our work, and Joe Bridgewater, who's one of our just like jack of all trades. She helps us wherever we need it.
Okay, the reason why I asked is the data you presented suggested that there's an increasing need over time.
Mhm.
And so I was trying to equate that to, I guess, the number of people that are engaged in the core work that you're managing. And so you partly answered that. There's some other behind the scenes supporters that are helping execute the mission,
Yeah.
which is a good thing. So it kind of reduced my concern in that regard. Okay,
I feel like I
thanks.
can also speak on that.
Yeah.
So Crush is a community recovery center. We have 8 peer recovery coaches currently. We have 2 interns. We just purchased a new building with opioid settlement funds. We have office space for 2 more full-time peer recovery coaches. We've also just purchased a van for transport, and we have 7 new office spaces for community partners like NAMI parent partners, possibly ASAC.
Oh.
So Tiffany Deneen, the woman that's up there on the far right, is my backup, my direct secondary for all the work that I do with Lynn County Public Health. She's also my secondary backup for all the emergency department coordination. So Crush is also spearheading, I should say, the Cedar Rapids and Marion emergency department responses. So if somebody goes to your emergency departments and they report a substance use disorder or an overdose and they ask for recovery services, 90% of the time I'll show up within 45 minutes and tell them what kind of services and what kind of help they can get afterwards. I can help them line up inpatient support, outpatient support. If they're unhoused and they need grant funding or assistance trying to get into a place, if they need just bus passes, birth certificate ID, social security card, health finding Section 8, food stamps, disability, insurance, clothing, anything. We're a resource hub. So it's not always just about recovery. It's about making sure that they've got a better step up in life. And the other thing is that I'm 100% grant funded, so nobody has to pay me.
Right. Yeah. Well, thank you. The total approach is much more robust than what first meets the eye.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you so much for this presentation. I think the residents of Lynn County are really lucky to have such a wonderful public health department partnering with the communities to make sure people are safe and healthy. So thank you very much for all you do.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you guys for listening.
Next item, we have a presentation from YMCA, Carrie McCoy. Oh, Seth.
Yeah, well, I was just going to introduce Carrie and Dale are here
Okay.
from the Y for the annual presentation. So I'll hand it over to them.
Go ahead.
Hi, good afternoon.
Welcome.
My name's Carrie McCoy. I'm the president and CEO of the Cedar Rapids Metro YMCA, which includes your Marion YMCA and Community Rec Center. And I'll let Dale introduce himself. Come on, Dale.
I'm Dale Emerson. I'm the branch executive of the Marion YMCA here.
So we are obviously here to talk about what's happened over the course of the last year and really over the history of our new YMCA and Community Rec Center. But I'm also just going to give you a little bit of an overview of the YMCA as a whole. Here in our metro area, we have 3 YMCA branches, Marion, downtown, and our new Prairie Summit Y, which we just announced yesterday, will open to the public on September 9th. And then Camp Wapsie, which has been around for over 100 years and sees a lot of Marion residents out for summer camp, resident camp, day camp, and retreats. Really, YMCAs are here to strengthen community. Our mission is rooted in Christian principles. We're here to ensure that all people have access to programs that build healthy mind, body, and spirit. Our core focuses on youth development, healthy living, and social responsibility. It's really about ensuring all people have access to these things. Our guiding belief is that when we focus our work on the things that our community needs the most and focus on the most pressing issues, that the Y is uniquely positioned to address those things, both within our own organization and by building partnerships. I'll spare you the reading of the entire slide, but the 2 main things that I'll just point out, guiding beliefs of our Y, but also every YMCA, are rooted in all people having potential and that we are better when our doors are open to all. So truly, we never let financial barriers prevent access. And while we are founded in Christian principles, we truly are a place for everybody. Hit on this already, but the 3 core pillars, youth development, healthy living, and social responsibility. Each of these can really be perceived as pretty broad buckets. That positions us to tackle a whole slew of things rooted in community need. Social responsibility in particular, my position is one in building partnerships. So identifying the unique needs of our community, and especially even having 3 different branches in 3 different communities, even each branch has a different need. So identifying opportunities to partner with other organizations, community leadership, and identifying, again, those most pressing needs by branch, and then creating programs that serve our community in the way they most need to be served. So we'll talk a little bit about the Marion YMCA, and I'm going to make Dale talk too, which he's really excited about. So our new Marion YMCA and Community Rec Center was built in partnership with the City of Marion and opened in January of 2021. Dale, I'm going to have you come up. We'll talk a little bit about, we have our standard YMCA programming and also some things that are unique to Marion and our partnership.
So it kind of talks about the history here, the old facility to the new facility, and just the drastic change in numbers and who we serve within this community. It's kind of fun to see that right now 25% of the Marion residents are YMCA members. And that does not touch on all our full touch. That does not talk about all the participation in our programs, from youth and adult sports to massage therapy, to some of the other things that we offer where you can be a community member, the Healthy Kids Day and City Showcase that we have where it's open to the public, that the Y is not specific to just our members, that we try and offer programming to everyone, like Carrie said. Go ahead.
You can hit on this one.
Yep.
So there were some projections before this branch reopened in its new location. The anticipated membership numbers. So I asked, we went back into the archives a little bit. So Many of you will recall the original YMCA in Marion was located on Highway 100. So looking at December of 2019, when that would have been our last operational month in the old facility, membership was sitting just over 2,600 members. And then even in 2020, we did see a little bit of an uptick. This new location opened in January of 2021. We saw an immediate spike in membership, and then what we anticipated occurring for membership numbers over a 5-year period happened just before the 3-year mark. So we saw an amenity that this community really wanted, needed, took advantage of, and has continued to grow ever since. So we far exceeded our expectations in terms of membership with the new location, with improved facilities and amenities, and we continue to see participation grow.
Big part of that is sustainability. Obviously, having a new YMCA, you wonder when that shine will wear off, but it's obviously shown within that data point that we continue to be to have a large footprint in the Marion community and the Cedar Rapids community as a whole. Just a couple of quick data points for you guys to look at. Over 230,000 check-ins within our YMCA in the last 12 months. That's simple scans that have to come in that we are able to track on our system. That does not include program participation, non-members coming in for Taekwondo or any of the other programs that we offer. This is simply membership scans that come in on a daily basis. And even if you divide that up by 365, it's over 600 check-ins per day, and we are not open 365 with holidays and weather and so forth like that. So typically right now we're seeing 800 to 900 check-ins a day, even in the summer months, and then during the wintertime we'll touch over 1,000 at times. And again, that does not include the actual program participation as well. We have 140 plus employees affiliated with the Marion YMCA. A lot of part-time help. We have a small team of full-time within our organization within that facility there. So we rely heavily on part-time work from high school students up to retirees that come back and give their time to the Y and the community as well. And then a big proud one, that's why it's a different colors, we offer over $1 million in financial assistance to our community. That's through programs, that's through membership. And really, like Carrie had mentioned at the beginning, we really look to make the financial buy-in not an issue. We try and find ways for all members or all community members to get involved regardless of their financial capabilities. And there's some other data points. I don't need to read every single one here for you. You can kind of see that it's not just a swim and gym where we offer other opportunities as well. Some more data points here for you from some of the youth and adult sports, as well as some of the partnerships that we have with the city of Marion. Seth was wonderful enough to introduce us, and we have a great relationship with Seth and his team with Marion Parks and Rec, where we offer some of the co-programming side of things. They come and use our facility as well for some of their programming. We work together on flag football, on basketball, and many others. But there's just some numbers for you for those that are data driven here to kind of see some of the reach that we have. Over 1,500 kids participated in youth swim lessons. We had 72 kids in our Pee Wee soccer program. We offer ballroom dance classes. We have lifeguard trainings that we partner with the city of Marion on as well. And then some of the other youth and adult sports from basketball, soccer, and volleyball there to kind of show our reach and our touch on this community.
I'll also just share, Dale hit on this, that we track check-ins of our members. And that does not account, and the numbers of visitors per day does not account for special events. We host several basketball tournaments per year. Recently, I was looking at data from, I just drew a complete blank, Placer AI, for dates when we were hosting basketball tournaments. People coming from all over the region, upwards of 2,000 visitors in a single day per basketball tournament are coming to our community to participate in some of the events that we're hosting at our Y. Also, some of the non-member things, pickleball day passes for $5. Somebody can come as a non-member and play pickleball. We have a very active pickleball group in Marion, and so we see utilization of the building every day of the week at all hours of the day. It's not necessarily when you might traditionally expect there to be a high volume of visitors.
I'm gonna hit on one more thing here with our active older adult days as well. Another partnership idea, which we'll talk about on another slide here in just a second with Seth and his team. Some of the conversations we're having is about how to serve those active older adults and ways to continue to grow those partnerships and so forth as well. So those are additional conversations being had in partnership with the city and creating a task force to figure out ways that we can continue our reach and continue to grow that footprint for that community as well. These are just some of the partnerships and opportunities that we do have with Seth and his team and with the city here. Again, I don't need to read everything to you, but some of the diabetes prevention, sunrise yoga at Lau Park, Pilates in the park, dog downs in Uptown and so forth. But some of the other opportunities, kind of like we just mentioned with the active older adults, other nonprofit partnerships, mentors and non-sports programs. That's something we're really looking to dig into and figure out a way that the Y can really be that place for all, just outside that swim and gym, or just what outside the norm of what we're already good at. How else can we serve the community and so forth? And then a couple of the activities that we have coming up here on an additional slide as well. I thought it was the next slide, sorry. Youth sports, kind of just going through a little bit more about some of this, a little more of the data-driven stuff for you guys. From our youth sports through child development, obviously the aquatics, which we kind of talked about, but this shows the YMCA as a whole within all of our facilities, as well as bringing in Camp WAPSI and really what they do to offer overnight camp, resident camp, specialty camps, family camps, a little bit of everything, as well as corporate outreach as well, that you can take a team there and do corporate outreach with them. And then some of the adult sports and general statistics about what we offer at the Y. So this is all included in your slides and such that you received, but just wanted to hit on a few of those.
Sorry, I'm going to back up one. One key point I wanted to make is that I've seen and been learning a little bit about the difference and the nuances between a rec center and the YMCA. The beauty of the YMCA is that as a nonprofit, we are not looking to taxpayers to help fund the $1 million in scholarships that we're able to provide, the introduction of new programs or services, that really our ability to meet residents where they're at financially and make sure that finances don't prevent them from access. That's offset by the people who are able to pay full price for memberships and for program enrollment. So for every person that we're able to sponsor, we're also receiving full price memberships from others. One other differentiating factor, I think, especially if somebody's looking to sign up for a gym membership and they're comparing us to another gym in the area, the biggest difference for us is that we are a mission-based organization that really is not just here to be a gym and swim. We are here to be a community anchor point, a place for gathering and fellowship. And also, as Dale mentioned, the future of the Y is one where we are evaluating how we appeal to the 70% of people who will never look to sign up for a gym membership. A large percentage of people still want and need a place to foster well-being of mind, body, and spirit, but they don't necessarily want a gym. So how do we get more engaged in the non-sports, non-athletic wellness side of things? Things like STEM, arts, things that will engage our non-athletes. So I'll also let Dale speak to this because he's the one who gets consistent feedback from our Marion residents. We have just recently launched a campaign to install blinds throughout the facility with the east and west facing windows. We get that early morning light and the dusk light. So we have a couple of spaces that in particular will benefit from having blinds. Our pickleball community, as I mentioned, is very active. They have been so affected by especially that morning light on the gym, which you see in the bottom left, that they've actually constructed their own blinds using PVC pipes, and they've donated fully assembled blinds. So what we found in having this highly in-demand amenity is that people really care and are invested in the space. So we're officially have a campaign launched to install blinds throughout and to introduce additional fitness equipment. New steps, which you see at the third picture from the left, those are very popular with our active older adults. They're gentler on the back than a typical a stationary bike. We often see people kind of waiting to use the new steps that we have. So adding 2 additional and then just continuing to build out our circuit of assisted weights. So exciting opportunities to improve space and enhance equipment. Anything you would add there?
I was just say, from the pictures you can kind of see on the gym floor with the glare and the reflection and so forth, the eye care is a big thing and a big concern for seniors, that they want to make sure that they're safe from that reflection and the light coming into them. It also affects our youth basketball and so forth in the morning programs and so forth. And then that middle picture, that second picture there, is of our vector room upstairs, where we have that afternoon sunset in a beautiful room with lots of natural light. But we also have mirrors in there on the would be the east side of that room, where then it just turns into a reflective microwave. And so it's beautiful and wonderful when it works out, but sometimes there is a hazard that causes it in there. So that having shades being put in there for the special times would be beneficial to all, I believe. So yeah, opening up this campaign and trying to get members involved, but also the community itself as well.
Exciting opportunity. We are launching a 5K, 10K called the Community Run. This is taking place on Sunday, October 18th. Registration is now open to members who wish to run and also to sponsors. We are going to make an event of it. We'll have food trucks. It's family friendly and really looking to get our Marion residents and community partners excited and engaged. Right now, we don't have a ton of runners signed up. Do you know approximately current? Yeah, so we have an opportunity to make this much bigger than it currently is. So we're excited to get this rolled out to the public as well.
And this will be based at the Marion YMCA with use of Lau Park as well as up on Tower Terrace as well. So obviously, thank you to the Parks and Rec group and helping with that and utilizing that space for this event as well. We have an upcoming Forever Roll. We talked about that active older adults. The Marion YMCA will recognize this on Wednesday, October 7th. We do these on Wednesdays in the months of October at our different facilities, and Marion's will be recognized on that 7th. We celebrate that community. We celebrate those active older adults that are an integral part of our Marion YMCA. We offer food. The mayor has come and passed times to meet and greet with members. We talk about the opportunities. We partner with other communities or community agencies as well to see what services that they could be offered through the YMCA as well. So everyone's invited to that. Now we open questions, I suppose. Do anyone have any questions about the Y or our direction or anything that we are doing currently?
Thank you. Great presentation. It's obvious that the Y is a big part of what makes Marion such a great place to be, and all the opportunities that people have here to enjoy their lives and to be healthy and experience a great quality of life here. A big part of what we offer in our promise to our residents. So thank you for the partnership. We'll take questions. Sarah, you don't have questions? Anyone? Oh, go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, I don't think people remember, but this Y was being built during the derecho
Yes.
of 2020.
And COVID.
Yeah.
And COVID, yeah.
But that's one of the best things is when it opened was in the middle of COVID, because that was a time when people really, really needed a place to go, something to do. So the timing was right. Mm-hmm. And this facility was absolutely one of the best investments that this city has made. And I've been a member since '78, but I will vouch for how busy the Marion Y is, because Dale knows I'll go there at different times of the day, a lot of times during the week between 9 and 1 o'clock, and that parking lot is packed. Vastly different from what the old facility used to be like. So this is just a gem for the city of Marion. Thanks.
Right, it's full at all hours every day of the week, and it's a sign that it was needed. And actually, this was a community rec center was the #1 item that came out of our community visioning process, the first one that we did. And we worked for years to find partnerships to make it happen on our own, but then this turned out to be such a great partnership, and as Steve said, a great investment. So thank you for all you do, and I'll be there for the Older Adults Day, I think.
Great.
Answer questions about parking.
Mayor, if I can just add one thing. Carrie and the team are wonderful partners to work with. Very much appreciated. And I'm going to shoehorn this in a little bit, but when Dale was talking about the older adult programming that they're partnering on with Seth and the Parks team, we committed to council that as things come up that we learn from our community survey, that we wanted to make sure we highlighted those. That is one of those things that we gleaned from the community survey that was presented back in October to council. That came out of that. And so we really appreciate the partnership with the Y on trying to address something that we heard from our community of where we can do better. So really appreciate it and look forward to continuing to work with you guys.
Yeah, my final plug is, I think the collaboration between the Y and city partners to address needs to get our active older adults more social opportunities is one really good example of bubbling up something that your community wants and needs. And as a Y, we'd love to hear and support anything else that bubbles up. And it does not necessarily have to be gym and swim or sports related, that as we're looking to serve the community in new and different ways, your input is always welcome. Thank you.
Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
Okay, next is our tree board presentation. Mike. Welcome, everyone.
Awesome. Surprise picture on the slide there. Good afternoon. I'm here to bring our tree board forward and talk about some updates and upcoming items we're proud of, as well as things that we've been working on over the last year or so. We've got a good number of board members here tonight. Do you guys want to introduce yourselves?
I'm Kate Pine, and I'm in my second term on the tree board.
I'm a profoundly proud member of the tree board, John Hanson.
Probably don't all know me, but I'm Joe Spinks.
One thing we're fortunate to have here in Marion is an extremely passionate group of board members that are active and very interested in the things we do. And we couldn't do everything that we do every year without their support and guidance. Some of the accomplishments that we've worked through over the years, or over the last year, you'll notice a lot of these items have a lot to do or will fall in line with the implementation of the urban reforestation plan. We've been talking about that and putting a lot of work into it over the last couple of years. And since it was adopted, we've really been focusing on putting those things into action. And so a lot of these points kind of coincide or fall underneath that major initiative that we've been working through. One of the accomplishments that we're celebrating currently is the CDBG, or Disaster Recovery Planting Program, we did with the contractor this spring. We had HUD funding, and with a contractor, we were able to bid out and plant over 1,130 trees in April this year. And we're currently working through that process to close that program out. There's actually some agenda items on Thursday's regular session that'll be going through as far as partial payments and a supplemental contract to keep them on watering those trees for us the remainder of the season. Continued refinement of that planting process. We've been working on this over the years. We reflect and look at what we're doing and kind of circle back with things. But this year with the spring, this is the first time we've ever done a large scale contract planting. And so there was some follow-up and some review of that process to see where we were maybe missing or where we could better serve the community and the residents in primarily communication, but making sure that we're addressing concerns as they come up with that application. One of the items that came from that process is to develop an information hub. We have a lot of things available online through the website, and really the primary discussion was how to create that all in one location and make it more easily accessible for residents and people, even if they're not involved in the current season's planting. There's a lot of questions that come in through other tree programs and just with existing trees in the right of way. And so something you'll see coming forward this fall with this fall season implementation is we'll have a planting hub developed with more information in one location. And I'll talk about that in a little more detail on a later slide. One item that came directly from Tree Board, but I'm happy to report on, is we've been kind of piloting or experimenting with the tree tubes in the right-of-way over the last 5 years. This is our 5th season since we kind of made that change with those different planting supplies. And we've seen an increased success rate with some of those plantings, but we've also seen that they stand the test of incremental snow over the winter, strong winds, vandalism, car accidents, all sorts of other factors we've experienced over the last 5 seasons. And so there was just a note to indicate that we've really found a system that we've applied and seen good success with. And I know it kind of looks different. We get some comments about that once in a while, but it's important to know that it was vetted and we are seeing good results from that. Looking ahead, I'll go into more details on planting again in another slide, but Kate would like to speak about some of the other things we have going on with Monarch Research and our right-of-way tree policy amendment.
So the Monarch Research Project here in Marion has been instrumental in increasing the number of trees, particularly native species in Marion. The partnership started in 2021, right after the derecho, when we lost such a large percent of our canopy. Of course, they'd already established the whole prairie and the monarch butterfly. And I have a micro prairie in my backyard, so I'm a big fan of Monarch Research Project. And one of the really cool programs that they have is the right-of-way tree replacement program. And we're currently in a season right now where people can apply to receive 3 free trees to plant in their right-of-way if they fill out a permit with the city or plant on their private properties. And with those free trees that have been given over the past 5 years, there have been more than 5,000 trees planted in Marion in the right-of-ways and
Right-of-way
private property.
and private, yep.
Yep, so the combined. So we're partnering with the Monarch Research Project to meet some of those goals from our urban reforestation implementation, because there was a large portion of the private citizens and the private properties will also contribute to the reforestation. It won't just be public reforestation. So we're seeing really good progress with this particular partnership. And then I'm going to skip down to the last bullet point on the right-of-way tree policy amendment. This is something that the Parks Department, the Urban Forestry Division has been working on for quite a long time. Next month, I think, are you giving a presentation in quite a bit more detail about the new standard? Mm-hmm. Thank you. I'm trying to get the right governmental language for the particular documentation. And this is a standard that's been in place since 2008, and there hasn't been like an official change. And so this is getting revamped, and because it's super complex. Mike has been working with, in particular, engineering, planning and zoning, finance department, in addition to all the other departments within the city, to really get this particular standard and planning and zoning ordinance set up so that we're really successful and can continue to be like a bird-friendly city, a place that people want to live, because to use trees to help with not only climate, but also like traffic patterns and those kinds of things. So the right-of-way standard that's being developed is specific to the new developments that have to do with how many trees are the developers going to be responsible for versus the city, because development is happening quite a bit faster than we can just come up with cash and buy a bunch of trees. So we really want to have the developers put some resources into reforesting the areas that are being developed so quickly. So this right-of-way policy will create, and like I said, Mike's going to give a much more detailed presentation next month about what that standard is going to look like. So we're hoping to see a bunch of new trees in the next several months, and we can present on that outcome next year and how that progress is. Anything else I missed on that particular?
Yeah,
all righty.
The last item up here under looking ahead that we didn't touch on is contract maintenance and planting for FY27. We spent a great deal of time working on financial modeling with the implementation of that reforestation plan last fall and worked that through with council. And found a good direction moving forward. And so there are some dollars budgeted in the current FY27 budget to develop a block pruning program and apply some more proactive pruning maintenance in the community where we already have trees that exist. And then also with the success of the spring planting with CDBG funding this year, we've elected to put some funding in the budget currently for next spring to do some contract planting ongoing as well. One of the processes that we worked through this spring in relation to that spring planting with the contractor was planting those 1,138 trees. This was somewhat different in the aspect that it took place over a much shorter period of time than we typically work through internally. And it was also a much larger volume or number of trees than we typically do with staff internally. And so we saw an increase in calls that came in. We had over 100 calls that were recorded over the course of that beginning first 2 weeks of planting and then afterwards. And out of those 100 calls, we had 20 appeals that were formally submitted for tree board to review after communicating with them on the staff level with the process. Typically, we don't go back and make changes to a planting once it's installed because of the time investment. But we review that and then work through it with the tree board to make sure that we're making the correct decision. And some of the board considerations that come up when we work through that process is the resident's justification, what the impact is to the resident, whether it's financial or hardship or just something that changes the way they use their private property. Planting site preferences in regards to the resident versus our staff marking suitable locations, and then the number of plantings per parcel. Because sometimes at one or any given address, we're talking about one tree, whereas on a corner lot or a larger lot, sometimes we could be talking about as many as 6 or 8 plantings. So we look at each planting kind of individually as well when we get an appeal. Over those 2 months working through that, the planting was mid-April. We didn't have time to get anything into the April tree board agenda because it's the second Thursday of the month. So we had our first appeals submitted and put on the agenda for May. We received 16. We approved 4 and denied 8. And just for clarity, when I say approved, that means the request that came from the resident was followed through with or approved. So if a resident asked to remove a tree, we removed the tree. When I have a number up there for denied with action, that would be a circumstance where the resident may have requested for a tree to be removed, but then suggested that moving it or changing location or species was also acceptable. And so working through those with the board, we indicated or decided that there were 4 of those initial appeals that we had action on, but the tree still remained on the property and planted similar or in close proximity to where it was originally. In June, we had a much smaller number of 4 appeals that came in. 1 was approved, 2 were denied, and again, 1 had action. And then in July, we have not received any additional appeals following that spring planting season. I think I actually received 1 last week on Friday after I put this presentation together. So that will go into our next tree board agenda for September. The tree planting timeline is something we focused heavily on with review. And it's definitely something that's evolved over the years. And it's definitely something that doesn't start about a week or 2 before we put trees in the ground. One of the things or some of the things that we focused on primarily was making sure that we're communicating far enough in advance so that residents have time to see this information, correlate how it will impact them or relate to their residents, and then follow up with us and voice concerns with time for us to respond or reevaluate before the tree planting takes place. The other thing we noticed by bringing more people into the conversation internally was that other departments throughout the city are getting some calls and questions about this as well. Most of our correspondence directs people back to the Parks Department because we house and have all that information. But we noticed that there was calls coming into City Hall, engineering. If anything's near an active construction project, sometimes things go back through Public Works. But it was definitely impacting other departments. So we've made a primary focus of this to focus on our communication plan internally, citywide, and then also to make sure that we're getting that information out to residents early enough that they have time to respond back. I think the last item that I was going to discuss on that slide was the information hub. And essentially, the direction we're moving is to start getting that into place as soon as possible for this fall. We've actually got information going into the Marion Messenger that'll come out at the end of the month. And then we've got mapping for this fall's planting locations designated and logged already. And we're planning on having all those informational items available on that hub, as well as an FAQ we put together with a wealth of information from past questions and concerns we've had. So that's it for that presentation. We'd be happy to take any questions.
Thank you. I think it's very impressive in the time since the derecho, how much work has been done to reestablish the canopy. And the way you've been able to partner and leverage volunteer efforts and all the different resources to make that happen. Mike, I guess, well, I have one question. I might have another one later, but my question is, when you have an appeal, are there established criteria to assess that appeal, or is it just a discretionary thing?
It's primarily
So that there, so that decisions are being made consistently and fairly. So.
Yep. And that's been a big part of that conversation, and we've worked through that. We don't have real hard set criteria because every planting location varies from one to the next. Usually we're looking at the fact that staff have identified the location as suitable as far as appropriate space from infrastructure and things on the private property that are taken into consideration. Really what it comes down to is the feedback that we get from the resident and, what their biggest concern is.
Sure.
And, trying to evaluate whether it's creating a hardship or if it's more of an opinionated preference.
All right, questions? Steve, go ahead.
Yeah, Mike, you and I have talked in the past years about something we haven't had to talk about for a while, and that's the ash borer, which I'm glad, because I remember years ago, there was this giant plan to roll out and how we were going to take care of that. But when you drive around the city, you see so many ash trees that are dead, giant ones in people's backyards, front yards. But what I'm seeing more this year is they're getting more brittle, older, decaying, and with some of these big storms, I've seen more branches falling off those trees this year than I have in past years. My concern is I'm not sure if all of our residents are keenly aware of what direction those trees are going in and some of the potential risk or injury or damage to their homes that may be sitting in their yards. So I always wonder, is that something that we can do, is put a educational piece in our Marion Messenger just for people to at least be aware of it, bring somebody in to take a look at it, and do something before there's something more serious happening. Because some of these trees there's some really, really big ash trees when I drive around and I look at them and I go, those things are dead and they're just something to happen bad. So just a comment or thought to throw out for your board to consider.
You're absolutely right. And a lot of the trees that we see left standing on private property are larger specimens, most likely due to the overall cost of that removal and how it impacts an individual owner. We do communicate some of that when we have the incoming correspondence, but there's definitely a place for us to be able to put something out that's going to be more broad scale and reach those residents.
Thanks.
Grant?
Mike, more of a comment than a question. But as you know, as you have endured my involvement on several inquiries, say it that way, I'm really glad that you're putting together your planting hub, your informational hub. It seems to me over the last several years now, there's probably known questions that are always going to come up, and that's improved your process. And so the fact that you can have this hub come to life is going to, I think, reduce the probability that any question would ever come to me, which is a good thing.
Yep.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I kudos on that whole approach.
Thank you. I think that's a driving factor behind the conversation we had with that was how can we reduce the number of incoming calls in general? And by providing that information further in advance, making it more available, that's our hope.
Anyone else? I think the hub idea is excellent. And I get a chance to talk a lot about Marion all over the region, and this is one of the things I'm always proudly sharing is how much we have done since the derecho to plant trees on public land and reclaim our prized canopy. So thank you for all you do, all of you, and please share those comments with the rest of the team. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Next item is a presentation from Leanne on the budget, 27-28 budget.
This is the first discussion in a series of discussions leading up to the Budget Council work session, as well as the adoption of the budget. We start with financial policies because they set the guidelines from which we budget and ultimately from which we operate, especially in the finance department. So looking at the policies this year, I've highlighted the three I want to touch on. I'm going to start kind of with purchasing really quick, just on this screen. This was primarily administrative changes. They are marked in the packet if you read through it, such as clarifying the library approval authority as the library board that aligns with state code, adding purchase order exceptions for commodities for which exact quantity and amount cannot be determined. When I say commodity, I'm talking about things like rock, sand, salt, where it's hard to determine exactly how much you're going to need until you have the truck there dumping it. And then I'll go over the reserve policy as a result of Senate File 2472. This is the recent property tax reform bill, and then touch the impact to debt management and example language for future consideration there, only as a result of that bill and knowing what capital improvement projects potentially we have coming forward. So again, this is due to that new property tax reform bill. This is Senate File 2472. This is exact language from the bill. Bear with me because I am going to read it. For budgets certified for budget years beginning on or after July 1st, 2027, proposed unassigned reserve funds identified within a governmental entity's general fund shall not exceed an amount equal to 35% of the budgeted expenditures from the governmental entity's general fund for the current fiscal year prior to budgeted transfers from such general fund. That is a mouthful. And I'm sure there's a lot in there that you're going, what does this mean? So for starters, let's start with general fund. When they're saying general fund here, they're meaning general fund in totality. So this is your general operating fund. This is hotel motel fund. This is your tax stabilization fund. And this is your equipment reserve fund. And then the next question, of course, is this 35%. What this means coming into fiscal year 28 is we're going to look at our state forms for general fund, that general fund column. We're going to look at the expenditures that we adopted for our budget in 27 before transfers, take that number and multiply it by 35%. And that is the limit in the state, the state code now. And what that means essentially is the state will not certify our budget unless that number is under 35%. Now let's get into what does unassigned mean. This comes from Government Accounting Standards Board statement. 54. You don't need to know that, but that's essentially the board that governs how we account in government. Unassigned is essentially not restricted, committed, or assigned. So then you have to understand what all of those mean. Assigned is intended to be used for a specific purpose. As you go down, these are going to be more restrictive. So assigned in our policy, our existing policy before our proposed changes, it does give Ryan as city manager and myself authority to assign funds. This isn't, it isn't like we can just assign anything. It has to be tied to something. So for instance, we can look at fiscal year end and say any outstanding purchase orders, we could assign funds to those. We can assign funds to projects that you have an adopted plan, like a capital improvement plan that shows utilization of dollars. That's what it means by assignment. Committed is essentially being passed by city council in a resolution. So an example of that, the tax increment financing funds, I'm saying this in terms of all the funds, although for the terms of the actual state statute, it's referring to general fund. I just think examples help people. So TIF, city council approves the resolution that approves our annual certification. That's one way of committing funds. So committed, think in terms of passed by a resolution. Restricted is restricted external to the city. So city council doesn't have a say on those. So think road use tax funds, think grants, federal grants, local option sales taxes by ballot language, which is your external voters. And then non-spendable, the best example I have for that one is our cemetery perpetual fund. You cannot spend the funds by state law. I'm going to pause right there because that is really a mouthful, and see if there's any questions on that reserve policy.
Go ahead, Grant.
So on the prior slide, you cited the 35% threshold.
Yes.
Wasn't there some discussion about what that percentage should be relative to protecting a city's bond rating? Are those tied? And does 35% help us?
Yes, and I will say that we were working with the lobbyists throughout this process. One of the bills that was brought forward by the governor, I believe, had 10% in it. And we said, hey, Government Finance Officers Association best practice is 25. You also want to buffer in there because you are looking at a prior year's expenditures. So, and we let the state know we use 35. Granted, when we're using 35, we're mostly looking at just our general operating fund, but the rest of those funds you start to assign.
So
Like equipment reserve is assigned.
historically, have we been right at about 35%? What's been our performance to date relative to this metric?
Historically, I would say we've been above 35%, but bear in mind that we have been modeling out, seeing what the changes are going to be doing down the line and making management decisions throughout the year. So while we budget to try and target 25 to 30%, we've been ending the year much higher, and that's been intentional.
Okay, but this is compliant then with state law and the way we go.
And then I just wanted to show on the screen, this is kind of the language from the policy in the way I've redrafted it to essentially include that 35% in that unassigned language. And then the policy again, I already shared how those funds get assigned. Any more questions on the reserve policy? If not, I'll move on to debt. So again, as a result of Senate File 2472, one of the major changes is the homestead credit change from a credit to an exemption. Just for the benefit of the public, the homestead credit is that if you are a single family homeowner, you live in your home, you can apply and receive this credit through the county. Under current law, before this change, that credit is then paid to the city by the state. The change to the exemption eliminates that. So now the state has basically made a cut in their own budget, and the city is no longer receiving those funds. And not only did they do that, but they increased the dollar amount from, I believe it was $4,850 to 10% with a minimum of 5,500 and a maximum of 20,000. Where I'm going with this is that reduces the city's taxable value by $132 million. That's using fiscal year 26 numbers, fiscal year 27 numbers, excuse me. So that reduces the city's statutory limit by 6.6 million to 246 million, and the local limit by 3.3 million to what is now 123 million. It's a lot of numbers. I'm putting this on the screen. This has not yet been updated. This is the model that we shared at the time we did this last year's budget. What I'm saying is that that blue line and that red line or orange line are going to be moved down a little bit, again, using the prior year's numbers. We'll have to wait and see what we get for growth as far as it coming back up. And that's out of nothing we've done, just the change in the law. And I also just want to point out again for the public, City Council has known we're working on replacement of the pool. We've intentionally did not bond this last year in anticipation of some larger projects possibly coming forward in future years. So we've been trying to reduce our debt. But as we look forward, in consideration of that pool replacement and any potential replacement of or relocation of Fire Station 3 or looking down the line at a potential Fire Station 4, these are strategic plan initiatives. Just want to put again in front of City Council options they could have in the future should we start bumping up against that limit. Staff is not recommending this at this time, just keeping it on the forefront. So one would be choosing to increase from 50 to 60. I've been told numerous times over the years that we are overly conservative in using 50%, that it's low. So City Council could choose to increase that, or they could choose to exclude any referendum ones, so where the voters have approved, and exclude that from the limitation calculation. Any questions on the debt?
Questions? None.
I will say, just providing a quick update because I know council is very curious as to when again, you'll get the full of the legislation. I did meet with Iowa Department of Management today. To quote them, they pulled 8 levers all in 1 year. So working on all of the different impacts of the bill is quite challenging, but I've at least kind of got direction going forward. I need to follow up with the county on some of the new construction stuff, specifically trying to understand how tax increment finance works with that new construction, but it is moving along and I am still working on it. So lastly, our next steps would be to approve the financial policies on September 3rd. We're going to continue to review and update those annually, and then we'll see you next time on the fiscal year 25-26 report.
Just one thing, were you going to talk about the meeting we had with Venture Academics?
Yes, I was supposed to, wasn't I?
Well, no, you weren't. We just had one of the things that we talked about last meeting with council was having a budget 101 workshop for the community. So we've been talking to Venture Academics. We had a meeting yesterday on that topic. Actually, also during this morning's Medco board meeting, I had shared a little bit about what we're working on from a budget standpoint to the board. And President Fisher from Kirkwood had put me in touch with their CFO. So we are working on the framework for a budget 101 town hall for the community. Based on the discussions we had yesterday, we're going to target sometime around November. Rachel, it was going to be looking at some dates. Roughly the first 2 weeks, the first half of November is what we're looking for. So that's something that we've talked about. That's a direction from council. So certainly, just given the budget update, we just want to make sure you're aware of kind of where we're at with that as well.
Anything else, Leanne?
Nope.
Okay, any other questions for Leanne? Thank you. Next item.
All right, so I got a discussion and direction item regarding infrastructure upgrades for the annexed rural subdivisions. So I believe, Mayor, one of the first projects you had was meeting with the property owners on Smithland Drive. So the purpose of this would be so that they have a game plan, not only when we bring them into the city, but then all the existing ones. So this showcases a lot of those areas that we've annexed in as part of that. So a lot of it was done as 80/20s, 80% voluntary, 20% non-voluntary. The area here, a lot of this was actually, because it was a big enough area, they actually had an annexation agreement. So just want to go through the policy high level. So the goals of the policy is to protect public health and environmental quality, provide equitable and efficient municipal services, enable integration with urban infrastructure network, guide long-term capital investment and planning efforts, and support broader economic goals. Any questions on the main portion? So then if we just take a look at what we need to consider looking at this area. So this is North 10th Street. Just to the south here off the screen is Tower Terrace Road. Lau would be up here to give you some area. And then the only utilities I have turned on is sanitary sewer. So you can see, for example, Shady Oak Drive, Williams Drive, Bruce, Erica, Eastview, they're all on septic systems still. And so at some point, we are going to have to come through here and install sewer to be able to serve those property owners. And what we're finding with the sewer is it's not necessarily that the septic systems are failing, but they don't meet current standards. So when they were put in with one set of standards. When they get sold, there's a requirement that they have to bring them up to current standards. So they might have to spend $20,000-$25,000 on a new septic system. If they're within a certain distance, they can tie into the city sewer. But again, if say you're this property owner here, it's not anywhere close. And so they might have to pay $20,000-$25,000 for a new septic system. And then in the future, when we bring sewer through, then they would have that hookup as well on top of that. So that way they have a better idea of when are we doing this. Also with water, I'm assuming the water terminates about the same locations. Maybe there's some water along the ditches like on 10th to create those loops. But looking at those connections and get them so there's not so many dead ends, there's more loops, better water pressure. Stormwater, it does not necessarily mean similar to Smithland Drive that we always are going to urbanize that section. We may not add curb and gutter. We may leave the ditches there, or it may make more sense to add curb and gutter and add storm sewer. So in that case, it's going to vary from subdivision to subdivision. And then the roadway standards. So a lot of them are asphalt or chip seal roads that were put in at the time. And so after we come in and do all of the infrastructure that we would do similar to Smithland Drive, we're going to bring that roadway up to city standards. So it's going to be the right width. It's going to have curb and gutter if that's the way that we go. But it's going to be concrete, and that way we can maintain it better than chip seal or HMA. Sidewalk, obviously most of these are ditches and there is no sidewalk connection. So when we get all the sidewalk gaps put in there, that's also part of the improvements to right now, a lot of them just walk down the street because that's their only choice. And then fire protection. So with that water that we're going to add, obviously we'll add fire hydrants, and then those apparatuses will actually have a closer place to tie in and then fight that fire. Versus now, I assume we use tankers or have long connections. So these are just a few other examples of some area. This is Highway 13, East Casina. So there's a line of houses here that are off an access road. This is Hennessy. So you can see these are all on septic, they're on well. Here's one north of East Robbins Road, west of Alburnett Road. Newcastle would just be to the west of here. And you can see, the cul-de-sac that was extended on Elshire has the services, and that's actually where the sanitary would come from. But coming and serving the rest of Elshire, coming up Heather Court and serving that community with those services. This one is Lucor Road and Indian Creek Road. Brookside Drive is also here. So this is where we're doing the Lucor side path. And you can actually see this area is still in the county. So there's areas that we still have not annexed in that are still part of the county. Luckily here, the sewer is close. And so it wouldn't take as much to tie some of these houses like this one and this one in because the sewer's right there. But some of them are a lot more extensive. So just thinking of those different areas. So I'm not showing all the areas. We do have a list of all the areas at the end. So what we're using is then a fact-based system. So looking at the pavement condition index, so that's the value that we get every 2 years from the DOT. So they drive our streets and they give us a value 0 to 100 on what that pavement condition index is. So if it's in really good shape and there's not a lot of septic failures, maybe it makes sense to hold off a little bit longer on that. The septic system compliance, again, that's determined by Lynn County Public Health and whether that passes or not. And like I said, typically it is because of the sale of the property and not being up to current code. Looking at sidewalk connectivity and gaps, stormwater infrastructure for adequacy. So looking at the stormwater master plan, or is it okay to have the ditches, or do we actually need to put storm sewer in there? And then water system capacity. Obviously, with a bunch of dead ends, it's not as efficient as connecting those and having loops to help generate that from different locations, especially if fire were to connect to it and need to use that for an actual emergency. So those are the actual scoring criteria that's in the policy. And so we would give each one a score. And then with that, we can put it in the CIP. So it's a fact-based assessment. It's then incorporated in the CIP because there's cost implications not only for the city, but also the residents. So then they know it's coming. And then once we evaluate all those, we can have proactive communication of any new ones. So if we're going to annex an area and there's a portion of it that are existing county residents, we can give them that timeline of, here's the improvements that are going to have to happen. We're going to put this in the CIP and we're going to, based on these values, we think it's going to be in this year. But then it's that proactive communication. So the mayor's not standing there having that conversation of when is my street going to be fixed? So then they have a roadmap to do that. So having that proactive communication, both for new and then all the existing ones as well. So that is, and then this is just the list of the ones that we have out there. Some of them are, say, north of 30th Street Drive or south of 100. Some of those on this side where we maybe only own the cul-de-sac may not make sense to ever bring sanitary all the way up to those locations. But they are technically a county subdivision that's been annexed in. So some of those we'll have to look at. And we did cross off Smithland just because we're proceeding with that project, but just kind of a list of kind of the general areas that we are looking at. And ones like Brookside Drive, we actually went in there, installed the sanitary and water, but it is still a rural cross section. Doesn't mean that we have to change it, but just something to look into. So with that, if city council is good with it, I can bring it back as a resolution at a future date. If there's additional information that's needed on both the SOP and the policy, we can go through any of those questions.
Okay. Questions? Go ahead, Grant, and then Sarah.
Well, first off, I appreciate the fact that there is a scoring matrix to make these evaluations. That takes a lot of the emotion out of it. So I'm just focusing on something that might be kind of minuscule, but if I'm a homeowner in one of these locations and I'm on my old my septic system, and that septic system was put in, let's say 2005. If I sell the house, I have to bring it up to current standard.
So what happens is Lynn County Health goes actually out there and they investigate it and they determine if it meets their standards.
It's the health department.
Okay.
Jurisdiction. Yeah.
Okay. Well, where I was going with this is, so that could be an impediment or a complication to a property sale. And so there I was thinking about, well, as we evaluate these subdivisions and understand the condition that they're in against our scoring matrix, that gets the let's say the new sewer line that would go in, that gets on our CIP, correct? For a future date. So, you know, can we coordinate with the county to say, if this is material to the sale of a property that is currently in the county, here is our long-range plan. And so the terms and conditions of the sale create, in essence, an escrow to pay for a future connection when we're ready. Anyhow, versus putting in a new septic system.
It's something we would have to work with the county on, and it probably depends on how it's failing. So obviously, if there's E. coli flowing down the ditch, that's a different concern.
That's bad.
Yes.
Okay, I think you see what I'm trying to do is not have an immediate condition of jeopardy just to sell the property.
It's a state law though. So.
Okay.
The
But
requirement to inspect at the time of transfer and upgrade it to current standards is a state law. So I don't know that the county has that discretion. It has to be done by under state law.
Well,
the county, there's certain parameters under which you can delay it if there's snow on the ground, those kinds of things, or if the building's the house can be demolished. Then you sign an agreement saying it's going to be demolished, so there's no need for a septic in the future. But there's just very limited ways to delay having to avoid having to upgrade it. It's by state law. I don't know if that helps.
no, it does, and it sounds like it's an area I don't want to learn any more about.
Yeah.
We got an expert.
Anything else, Grant?
No.
Okay, Sarah. Sorry. I deal with it every day, so. Yeah.
Thank you, Mike, for the presentation. I think I've learned a lot in my 4 or 5 years on council because of the annexation situation with Smithland. And then there's been a number of these others in Ward 4. So I appreciate the diligence and the city looking at where we were and where we need to go based on a growing community of all the things we're absorbing. So I just thank you for trying to get this, get our arms around it, where I think it was really just hanging out there, waiting for someone else to take care of in the past. Reactionary, we're proactive, which I guess is the word I'm probably should be using. This is just kind of a side random question. How many of these neighborhoods, when we're coming in to do what we want to be able to do or doing, are going to want that? Like, are we going to be, how much resistance are there? Or how much are people requesting, come on, we've been here for a while. I mean, there's always like the improve my road side of this, kind of like we've, but then with that comes these other components of getting in with the city services. So do we anticipate us having, or?
So the sewer and the water, it kind of varies, but I can tell you even this week, we had a call on Bruce Road. So it's going to kind of depend, that's where, when are you going to come fix my road? Well, again, same thing with Smithland. We don't want to come in and just fix the road and put a Band-Aid on it. If we're going to come in, we want to do it right.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean that they necessarily have to tie into sewer and water immediately. We stub it to the right of way and then it's there for when they need it. But if they decide, no, I'd rather use city sewer or city water versus my well that doesn't work all the time, they have that option.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. I know it's kind of an uphill climb with this, and it's not easy on either side. The difference being this isn't about a road connection, which became a big part of the Smithland situation, but I understand it's also not easy conversations on some of them either. So thanks for all y'all are doing.
So yeah, I think we all learned a lot from the Smithland Drive situation, but the list of annexations that you had, especially the ones on the left. So maybe I just need clarification or restatement. So are you going to go through this evaluation for all of those subdivisions? And then they will be prioritized, which ones we feel are going to be the first ones where we're going to consider making that investment.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. And then what we'll do is, just like any other CIP project, we would put it together and we would say, this is the number one that we would recommend doing. And it might be one where we have to take it piece by piece. Because for example, we had, I believe it was Anderson Bogert put together what it would cost to do this.
Yeah.
And obviously that's a lot of work.
Yeah.
So it might be something where we have to take it in pieces, but that's something where then we would bring it as a project to city council and say, look, these are the reasons why, similar to Smithland. And we feel this is the next one that we should take on.
So am I correct that at this point in time, none of those are in the current CIP?
Correct.
Would I also be correct to assume that in order to get all of that done, we're talking about a fairly long period of time? I mean, 15, 20 years? That seem reasonable?
Yeah, because you don't want that to absorb the entire CIP.
Right,
So yeah,
right.
it's gonna take some time.
So it's going to really some of those are going to get stretched out unless something happens.
Right.
Okay.
Anything else?
Yeah. So Steve, your question about total time to completion in a CIP, I guess that sort of mitigates the concern I was kind of nibbling at relative to somebody has to sell the house, upgrade the septic system. 3 years later, we're putting in the facilities. So that gets to that, especially if we're out 15, 20 years.
But
Just to add just a little bit of information, when a municipality annexes in property, when we take this to the state, the Community Development Board, to either approve or disapprove, there is a lot of documentation that comes with those annexations. And within those annexations, they ask the city, do we have plans to provide services? And many times it is either in an annexation agreement, the parties will negotiate that with the city, or it'll be upon a request, or it could be upon development, that type of thing. So in that, one of the reasons when we really even more started talking about this in light of Smithland is, do we have a plan? What is our plan? And so in that, this really, inspired those greater, deeper conversations and putting a policy such as this together, because at any point, any of those annexation, those residents that were annexed can at any point say, I need this and I need it now. And if we don't have a plan, or if we don't say, have this kind of laid out saying, yes, we have a plan, this is when we would plan to do this, we are far better ahead as a municipality than if we have an answer that is like, we don't know. We don't know when we'll get there. So this really is that proactive measure. This is that the conversation at the state level when we talk about annexing property into our community, being ready and prepped to provide all of our services to them.
anything else? So do you need anything else, Mike? or-
If council, if you've read through the policy, if there's any questions, if not, I can bring it back to a future council for consideration for adoption.
Is that okay with everybody? Anyone opposed to that?
I'm okay with it.
Okay.
Yep.
Thanks, Mike. And just to the agenda review, there are four items that are marked by staff. First item is on page 5, D4, Mike.
Yep. So we have previously done this in the past for a different resident. It was around $1,000. So basically they had an outside spigot that was leaking. They did not realize it. And then the water number that the water department had was not working. And so they weren't able to call them to tell them that their water bill was high. So they're not giving them a credit on the water because obviously the water was treated and used. But it watered their yard, so it did not go down the sewer. So I am recommending that we do a $600 credit based on what their normal usage was minus what went into the yard. We are working with legal to upgrade the ordinances so that stuff like this can be approved at staff level, so we don't have to bring all these to city council.
Good idea. Any concern with that or questions? Okay, next item is Nicole, E3 on page 7.
Looking for the pointer. Good evening, council and mayor. So we've got a request here for the Central Corridor review for facade alteration at 207th Avenue. That's at the intersection where 2nd Street kind of tees in there next to 7th Avenue, Marion Boulevard, right by our trail bridge, which will become El Burnett Road on 2nd Street there. So they are looking for facade alteration. The current building, majority of it is a smooth concrete block. Previously, there was ivy growing over, so you couldn't tell what was underneath the ivy. That has since been removed, and it is that smooth concrete block. So looking at the facade elevations that are proposed, so the image on the top left there is the south-facing facade that would mainly stay the same. The bottom portion of that is currently brick. They are planning to keep brick. The existing brick, that is a primary material. The upper material is currently a horizontal siding. They are proposing to change that out to a muted green color with that shaker siding style. Earth tones and muted colors are what's recommended within the corridor. So they are kind of aligning with those colors as well. That northwest and east wall, so the grouping of images towards the right there. We'll have this board and batten style here. It's a 17.5-inch wide panel with a 2-inch wide batten on it. That does give it that architectural detail that is an allowed material within the central corridor. It will include hidden fasteners as well. On that western end of the central corridor, both the shaker siding and the board and batten are elements that are commonly seen. So the auto body that's just kind of south and kitty corner from this does have that kind of board and batten style on it. There's a property to the east of this with more of that truly traditional wood shaker all around that structure. And then just to the east of that one has another board and batten styling. I think it was recently painted in white. So this does kind of align with kind of that end of our central corridor. They are enhancing the building as it sits today. Again, it does sit as smooth concrete block that used to be covered in ivy. They're adding a facade material that does meet our corridor standards. Therefore, staff is recommending approval of their facade alteration request.
Questions? Go ahead, Sarah.
I'm glad they're doing an upgrade. This will be, when El Burnett Road comes in then, right, this is like an entry point. We're coming into an area that we're kind of looking at, but hasn't been, we're going the other direction right now as far as it. So it'll be a few years before we get down to, but it's kind of a gate, it'll be kind of a gateway, right? So I'm glad that the landscaping has to be part of it, the whole thing, right? To make that more of a, I don't know, you're not looking at the backside of the building anymore because it'll be a main road coming onto that corner. So I appreciate anything we can do and that we are doing and they are doing that are making that look more professional.
Anybody else? So what's being approved here? Just the facade improvements?
Correct, just the facade.
Nothing else is being done?
Nothing else. If it was going to be a new building, we'd be looking at for additional architectural features, things like that, that we have with other projects that have popped up in the corridor.
Yeah. I remember years ago when I was on planning and zoning and this came up to allow the tombstones to be displayed up front. I was in favor of the backyard, but I lost that one. Okay, anything else? Okay, back Are you next? Oh, see. Oh, yeah, you have the next one,
I'm still
Nicole. Yeah.
here.
Then it's Mike.
Yeah, and then Mike's back. So E7 here, this is a similar request, if you recall, from basically a year ago. So Rookwood Estates East. They are seeking a one-year extension for the validity of the preliminary plat. The original plat was approved in 2023. Preliminary plats have a validity of 2 years. Unless if there's a final plat that's been approved by council, then they're locked in indefinitely. Without that final plat being approved, they do expire after that 2-year period. With this one, it is unique development. There's been a lot of conversations around stormwater management, the regional basin, as well as some other elements with this development that make it unique. So just like last year, those conversations have still been continuing with staff and the applicant. As those continue, they are seeking another 1-year extension for the validity of this preliminary plat, extending it out to November of 2027. So staff is in favor of this just due to the ongoing conversations. Questions?
Anyone have a question or comment on that? Okay, thank you. Mike?
So this one, we just wanted to star as a win for collaboration with our partners at Linmar. Tara, there you go. So high level, what this has in an MOU is if we have a piece of equipment that we do not need at that current time, and it's something that the school district needs, and as long as their staff is trained and they have the proper insurance, they can use it and vice versa. So it's a good way of collaboration and utilizing equipment that may not be used every day.
What's an example of a piece of equipment?
Yeah, so it was actually a Marion Independent School District, and we're also working through them to have a similar agreement, but it was a roller where we had a compacted roller and they wanted to fix part of their parking lot. And so getting that compaction done, and then they ended up having to rent one because we could not loan them ours. So this would save both money.
Okay, questions on that? No. Go ahead.
Just to clarify what you said, because I was going to ask why not also Marion. So there's also one being worked on with Marion right now? Okay.
Yep. They wanted to change theirs to a 28E, so it's just going through some language changes.
Okay. Anything else on the agenda that anyone would like to discuss or have questions on? Okay. That brings us to the conclusion of the work session. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you Thursday. We're